What's up, everybody? Mike here for Let's Be Blunt. I am very excited today. Sometimes we don't know exactly who's coming in and different stories and things, but the person we have with us today I've been following for quite some time. She was introduced via social media through a mutual friend, a fellow cannabis advocate. Shout out to Katie. What's up?
Yes.
But I've been looking forward to this interview for quite a while. I'm rarely inspired by people. Nah, really. But truly inspired. Today in our studio, we have Miss Erika Bogan?
Bogan.
Erika Bogan. Quite the incredible story, quite the incredible person. I'm going to let her tell more of it. But, you meet people in life, sometimes you immediately know, I've met this person before, or this is my people, and we've expressed that since being introduced to each other. We had a brief meeting via Zoom prior to this, and I got to speak with her this morning. But what a great person, great soul already. I can tell you the energy is amazing. But how are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm amazing. We have a little bit of a gas leak going on around us, so if we have to run out and evacuate, it is what it is. But what a beautiful morning, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm so appreciative just to have another platform to be able to share my passion and my story, and hope it can help somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. We try to, we're cannabis-based, but we're obsessed with life and stories and people's stories. Everybody's story is unique, and yours seems to be so as well. Ultimately, you're here representing so many things.
Yeah. So it was actually funny because Nikki asked me, she sent me a text last night and was like, hey, can you give me a little blurb? I know some of your story, and I was like, oh, that's a really hard question. And it really is when people ask me, what do I do? I'm like, oh, sit down and buckle up, because I do a lot of things. But I wouldn't know how to live life any other way.
Sure.
I call it sweet chaos, right?
Sweet
so it's
chaos.
such an oxymoron, because it's very chaotic, but so rewarding and so sweet at the same time.
Amazing. Let's start with the basics. Where are you from?
So I'm a transplant to Charlotte, but I've been
Welcome.
here. I tell people I'm from Charlotte because I've been here for 21 years.
Oh, yeah, you're us now.
Yeah, so this is home, but I'm a military brat, actually. My dad was in the Air Force, so I don't really have, like, a home,
Sure.
so to speak. I lived a little bit
Thanks,
everywhere
Dad,
growing
and
up.
you for your sacrifice and service. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so
Love that.
much. My dad and my grandpa they're my heroes. Those are my first loves, so
Amazing.
I appreciate that.
Thanks, guys, for the service.
Yeah,
Amazing.
absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us, man, there's so many parts we're going to share, so just take it one by one. Start where you want to.
So I am a paraplegic because of domestic violence. It's weird because I don't like to go, everybody always wants to know, like, how did it happen? And while I think that that's important to talk about, I think that the bigger part of my story, the more impactful part, is what I chose to do after I got hurt. But I did get hurt because of domestic violence. It was a car accident caused by domestic violence. My ex has, and I'm saying has because, and to my knowledge, still has some anger issues.
Sure.
We'd gotten into an argument. He was doing 75 and a 35, driving out of anger. Went to hit me, which is the last thing I remember, and lost control, overcorrected. The car flipped 6 times. I went out the passenger side window. My body hit a tree, which is what broke my spine. And initially, my family was told I had 48 hours to live.
Wow.
That if I came out of a coma, I probably wouldn't know my name because they weren't really sure how much oxygen I had lost. When they found me initially, I was not breathing.
Wow.
So they had to defibrillate me and bring me back. They airlifted me to the hospital. Obviously, I lived past 48 hours.
Congratulations. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's nice to be here. But I stayed in a coma for about 2.5 months.
Wow.
Part of that 2.5 months was medically induced. I was in so much shock that I was ripping out my tubes, my ventilators, my IVs. So they had to restrain me to the bed and medically induce me back into a coma so that my brain could heal. Fast forward, when I did wake up, I woke up with a vengeance. And I was not the person that you're sitting here talking to right now.
Sure.
And it's funny because recently I did another podcast for Spartan, and the guy that was interviewing me said, he was like, so when I read your bio, it looks like you woke up out of a coma and were like, all right, I'm going to choose to live life to the fullest and not make any excuses. And I was like, oh, no. There was a lot in between that.
Sure.
This has been literally, I'll be paralyzed 21 years in January.
Wow.
And this has been a war of peaks and valleys. And the war has been inside of my own head. And so very early on, I learned how to put a mask on. And that mask, years later down the road, actually ended up being the worst thing I could have ever did for myself. But I had to learn that. And so for many years, so for instance, in 2009, I was crowned Miss Wheelchair North Carolina, and then subsequently went to compete at nationals for Miss Wheelchair America, and I won. Wow. Even during that time in my life, I was wearing a mask.
Sure.
And what that mask was when I was out around anybody, even family members, I appeared as if I was okay. And I was figuring out my new normal, and I was living my life to the best that I knew at that point. I would go out as Miss Wheelchair America and travel the entire country and speak to crowds of over 2,000 people and share my story to empower them. But when I got back home, it was a very dark place. And that's where the war always was, because I was not happy.
Sure.
I was struggling, literally trying to find the resources to just wake up and get out of bed every day.
Right.
Early on, part of the problem was there was never any mental health help that was ever offered to me.
All physical.
So for 18 years, I went undiagnosed with complex PTSD and literally lived my life, especially in my relationships, in the same toxic patterns and cycles, because I didn't know that it was a toxic cycle or pattern. I didn't know that I was the problem.
Sure.
At the time, my understanding of life was it was everybody else. But I was actually attracting broken, horrible people, very toxic people, because I was toxic myself, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
In January of 2019, I had what I like to call a spiritual awakening, but it really wasn't. Being fully transparent, it was a total mental breakdown. I was driving on 85 in Concord. I think I just left a doctor's appointment, and I came up to a bridge, and my brain was telling me to drive off the bridge. But in the moment, I still had a little bit of
clarity.
A little bit of my irrational brain
Sure.
and thinking left, because it was definitely my irrational thoughts that were in control in that moment. But I pulled my car over, I called my mom, and I was hysterically crying, and I'm like, Mom, I don't want you to freak out, but I need you to know I don't want to die. But my brain is telling me to drive off this bridge right now. But I don't want to die, Mom. And I kept saying, I don't want to die.
Right.
There's something wrong. I'm not okay. There's something wrong with me. I don't want to die. I made it home. By the time I got there, my mom was already there. She stayed with me for about 5 days. Literally, I couldn't get out of bed. I would just try to keep myself asleep so that I wouldn't have to feel the pain that I was going through in my own head.
Sure.
My mom fought with doctors because, of course, everybody's booked out for months, right? So, like, well, we can't get her in. My mom was my advocate in that moment, and I need to talk to the doctor now.
Sure.
She finally got through. My doctor said bring her in immediately. Part of the problem we ended up finding out through doing a whole bunch of labs was that I had been unintentionally overdosed on serotonin.
Oh, wow.
My doctor, my primary care doctor, every time I would go and say, hey, this antidepressant isn't working anymore, I'm just not feeling good anymore, something's wrong, they would give me another pill, right? So they're just giving me Band-Aids to cover up the problem rather than saying, hey,
Welcome
let's
to Western
refer you
medicine.
to a psychologist
Yeah.
and start treating the root of your trauma, because that's why you're feeling this way. Instead, they gave me a bunch of pills, and come to find out, the pills that they gave me, 2 of them, when you read them in the drug lookup book, they should have never been taken together. It said in the book they were in a red. You only take them together if the benefits outweigh the risks. Well, they didn't assess that. They just gave it to me anyway. So it caused me to go into a psychosis. The other half of it was not chemical. The other half of it was situational as well. I came to a place in that moment, that day on the side of the road, where I was tired. I was tired of fighting my body. I was tired of fighting the world around me that's not built for me.
Sure.
And what I'm talking about is accessibility.
Absolutely.
I was tired of constantly having to advocate for myself. I was tired of not being able to make decisions for my own wellness based on legalities. And what I'm talking about here is cannabis.
Right.
I found way before I ever got paralyzed, when I was 15, I started using cannabis. Now, I will admit, when I started using it, it was just to get high. And it was a good time. Yeah,
right.
And that's okay.
Right.
But after I got paralyzed and continued to smoke weed after I got out of the hospital, I realized how much it really helped me. When I would get into a not good place in my own head, that was the one thing that would make me feel better and go, wow, life isn't that bad right now. This is temporary.
Sure.
And this is going to pass. Not to mention the physical ways that it helps me. So I live with debilitating chronic pain, which is nerve pain. It's all neurological. So there is no cure to it. It is from my nerves being messed up and basically cut in half in my spinal cord when I received my spinal cord injury. The other part of that comes with that is the longer that I've been paralyzed, the more debilitating spasms I get in my legs and my back. Those spasms only happen in the middle of the night when I'm trying to sleep.
Oh, man, yeah.
So for many years, I hated to sleep. And I slept a lot, but it was because at nighttime I didn't sleep good.
Sure.
So I was a napper. I'm still a napper.
Yeah, myself.
I didn't want to lie to anybody. I'm still a napper. Naps are like my favorite time of day. But I got to a place where, because of the war in my head, I was afraid to go to sleep because the nightmares and night terrors that I would have would wake me up in a full-blown panic attack. And the physical pain of the spasticity, the spasms in my legs and my back would also wake me up, and the nerve pain. So you can only imagine why I would get anxiety before I had to go to sleep.
Right. The night terrors linked to the PTSD of the accident still.
Yes.
The day of the bridge incident, was there a trigger of that? It was just exhaustion, just a point of exhaustion.
Just to the point of exhaustion,
Wow.
I would finally go to sleep. And more often than not, it would be at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So then I would sleep until 11 o'clock or noon. And I had a whole bunch of people, like my friends and family, that would like talk shit jokingly, like, oh, like, don't even call Erika before 11 because you're not going to get her, you know? But there actually was a reason behind it.
Sure.
I just didn't realize.
As is most people that sleep a lot. I mean, or in different hours. It's
well, and part of the problem why nobody in my inner circle, even family, knew what was really going on, I hid it. Because, and this happens a lot for people with disabilities, especially people that are in a position that I am as a public figure. So I'm very well recognized in the disabled world.
sure.
Is you get to a place over years, especially being an advocate, where people are constantly telling you, now don't take this the wrong way because you've said this to me, and
sure.
Nikki has too.
Right.
You're my hero. When I think about not getting out of bed, I get out of bed because I remember you, and
Sure.
I see what you're doing. And while I appreciate that so much, and
Lot
to
of
this
pressure.
day, it is something that when somebody says that, I'm like, can I hug you?
Right.
Because it does mean the world.
Sure.
But for all those years that I went undiagnosed, what that did was the opposite. It made me put that mask on.
Right.
because now I'm carrying the burden of I can't let these people down.
Sure.
They're struggling in their own lives and they're looking to me for motivation. And so there's no way
Right.
I can be transparent and be like, I want to fucking die.
Right.
Like,
Sure.
I have planned my own suicide in detail.
Sure.
And I had many, many times. So the biggest thing that I dealt with was suicidal ideation. I would lay in bed for hours,
Right.
isolating myself, literally getting
Prepping
excited
yourself, yeah.
about the ways that I had figured out to kill myself that would be less of a burden on my family.
Sure.
I really irrationally thought this was
Right.
a truth for many years.
Sure.
So that also kind of explains a little bit of where that mask comes from.
Right.
Now, we can fast forward to present day.
Right.
It doesn't affect me that way. But what my superpower was to overcome that was my vulnerability. It was taking the mask off and being transparent, especially to my audience, to all these thousands of people that have followed me for 20 years.
Right.
Taking the mask off and going, look, guys, I might be your hero, but I'm human.
Right.
And I'm struggling. And I have had many moments throughout the last 20 years that I've been your inspiration and hero where I've wanted to end my life. And when I took that mask off and started being transparent and vulnerable, it did become my superpower.
Sure.
Because then my story became a survival guide for so many other people out there, even people that I don't even know about.
Right. And speaking for myself, you know, in this particular situation, inspiration, I look for inspiration a lot, and I think a lot of us do, because it is a dark world, especially right now.
Yes,
It's very
yes,
dark.
yes.
And myself have been in very dark places before as well, going through different phases of life, in and out. And at the time, you feel like the world is crushing you, and it doesn't make sense of why I'm here.
You get tired,
So
right?
exhausted. And,
Yeah.
I have a nickname of Pun to a lot of friends and family, and you know, it almost became a facade for me. It was this public persona that I had to be
Yes.
at all times around certain people, where the real me really isn't so fun and really isn't party going and really pretty dark and pretty upset a lot. And
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so I feel that 100%. But you know, it's something too. You know, you talked about things that are said or not said. I think it puts everyone in a bit of an uncomfortable position at first meeting, because you don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to,
Yeah.
you know.
And I actually get that more so than the average
Right.
person because of my wheelchair.
Sure. And I have a couple friends that have gone through this as well because of accidents. And I've watched their, you know, progression or digression, both.
Yes.
And it, you know, it comes down to everybody just wants to be treated normal.
Yes.
Right.
We just want to be human.
Right. And
Yeah.
but you know, unfortunately, I think a lot of times people, like, naturally, without any kind of other things, people kind of disappear out of my life because we're so damn busy and so many things going on. But I think when you're in that situation, you take it so much more personally too, of no one's here.
Yes.
And then, you know, so
And you feel like you're literally fighting a war alone,
right.
which is where I was.
Amazing. So talk a little more about this journey of discovering what was going wrong and how we started coming out of it and where are we at today.
So I have been very blessed over the last 21 years, almost 21 years of being paralyzed. In the way that the universe, I have zero regrets. Even the nervous breakdown was actually one of the most important things that could have ever happened to me. And I have no shame
Sure.
now about sharing that.
I think solid things, you have to break it all the way down to rebuild it. And I
Right.
feel like
Well,
those
so
moments-
without trials, without obstacles in life, there's no growth, right? So you have to eat shit sometimes to be able to grow and move out of your comfort zone, or you're just going to stay in the same place over and over, right? So that's how I
You're
look at
speaking from
my
my
breakdown. But after they got me detoxed off of all the medications, so the crazy thing about the medications were they were regular, like, antidepressants, like Cymbalta, Buspar. They gave me Ativan.
Cymbalta's the devil.
All the devil.
Oh,
Yes, all the devil.
Yeah.
But the
It makes you
combination.
feel nothing.
So I'm not, and I feel like I need to be transparent about this. I am not against
Sure.
somebody with mental health having to take
100%.
antidepressants, or because I still have to take one low dose one.
Sure.
And I think that as long as it's being done in a regulated, educated way,
Sure.
and that there's other holistic things added to the person's wellness plan, I think it's a very positive thing. Whatever works.
Sure.
But they got me regulated, got me back level, I guess.
Right.
Detoxed off of the medications that were causing the problem, and got me into therapy. My doctor finally was like, you need to be in therapy.
Okay.
They did actually a very intensive therapy with me that's called EMDR.
What's that stand for? Do you remember? You know?
What's that?
What does it stand? What's that acronym for? Do you?
So hold on, I'll
That's all
tell
right.
you.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Hold on, I'll
That's all
tell
right
you.
if you gotta take notes. Trust me.
Yeah.
Half the stuff in the cannabis business, people are like,
Because
what's
I
that?
can never.
I'm like,
It's
give
eye
me a minute.
movement.
Sure.
DR.
It was a rapid eye movement kind of deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. So
Wow.
what it does, and I'll explain that in regular
They
terms.
do that in some autism things, right? Or no? Anyway,
It's
I'm
actually
thinking
combat PTSD.
Okay, that's what it was. All right.
Is where it started. So I was actually the first, that my therapist, the first client that she did EMDR with that had complex PTSD rather than combat. So what it does, it's very, very intense, but the therapist or the practitioner gets you into kind of a meditative state, kind of a hypnotic state, that you're not hypnotized. And you have two different electrodes one in each hand, and they vibrate. They go back and forth, left to right, just like our eyes do.
Sure.
And our eye movement. And as we're going through, it makes me actually have to face my trauma. So things that that had been suppressed in my memory because it was traumatic, actually came back out, and I had to see it and face it. But what they do is she attaches a healthier emotion to that memory in my brain.
Wow.
And so it basically is creating a new pathway of thought around the trauma, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I would do an EMDR session, and I would drive home and not even remember driving home.
Yeah, that's scary. Yeah.
And then I would have to isolate for hours. And what the isolation
healing.
was that my brain was still processing what she had just did with me. So I literally couldn't talk to anybody. Most of the time I would nap. I would go home because I would be just exhausted.
Seems similar to ayahuasca treatment or the ketamine treatments too,
Yes,
that they're doing.
very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar.
But more holistic and
That's right.
less
It's
invasive.
totally
Yeah,
holistic.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
good. That's what an incredible process. So
Life started to change.
I was gonna say, is that the second awakening after the
So that was when I started to emerge. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I was definitely waking up. And that was, I talk about like closing chapters in life, or like leveling up. So that was me leveling up to the next realm of my life.
Sure.
Because it was literally life-changing. I stopped having night terrors. I stopped even having nightmares, because they're two totally different things.
Right.
I stopped having panic attacks. I got myself to a place through therapy of learning tools of how to stop a panic attack in its tracks, just with using simple things like gratitude and mindfulness. Meditation is a huge part of my everyday life. I meditate. I'm known to pull over on the side of 85 and meditate for 10 minutes.
Man, well, you know, we
Sometimes
need,
that's what I have to do.
If anybody needs to meditate, it's people on 85 or 77.
Ain't that the truth?
They all need to pull over and
Ain't that the
meditate
truth?
real quick. So I guess breathing's probably part of that too. I saw some of your training videos. Breath
is
work.
a huge
Yeah.
part of it, because breath work actually helps with the physiological symptoms of anxiety or panic, because it slows your heart rate down.
Sure.
So it's something as simple as doing 3 deep breaths, but
Consciously
slow and
thinking of your
controlled.
breath. Right.
Right. It slows your heart rate down, which stops the cortisol and adrenaline that's rushing to your brain and making you panic.
Right.
So when I started realizing that I could be in control, that I literally, through my care team, because it's a whole team, psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, life coach, behavioral analyst. Like, I went to the top.
Sure.
So that's where I started. When I started this conversation, I said I've been very blessed over the last 21 years at the people that the universe has placed in my path along the way. So those people were the people that I reached out to. There were certain people who inadvertently had been put into my life because we shared a stage. So my behavioral analyst / life coach is world renowned. He's
Wow.
one of the people that actually made one of the psychological assessments, behavioral assessments that psychologists all
full
over the world
circle.
use.
Right.
He made that over 30 years of research. His name is Steve Sims. He's
I love the
written
last
The
name.
5 Angry People. I mean, like, there's all of these books.
Yeah, I'll have to get that list from
We
you.
share
on
it. So it's so
audio.
crazy how we met. It's kind of similar to
I'd
how
love to
we
have
met.
him on too.
Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah,
He's amazing.
So in this journey, and I'm curious too, going back to the person that ultimately causes harm to you. Is this a forgiveness thing or no, or is that part of it?
So,
did you ever have to face him afterward?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I actually maintained a relationship with him. We have a daughter together.
Okay.
I was a part of his wedding 6 years ago.
Wow.
I will tell you, when my daughter turned 18, I decided, I made a conscious choice because I realized through therapy that I had maintained a relationship and friendship with him for all of those years out of fear. I was afraid of him. And I kissed his ass. I lied for him. I did a lot.
Sure.
But it was out of fear. And when I had my daughter, our daughter, I found out I was pregnant with her in the year anniversary of the accident. So I was very newly injured, very fresh out of the hospital.
Wow.
I didn't even really know how to take care of myself at that point. But I knew that this baby was going to be a blessing, and that I chose to look at it in that perspective. And I can tell you that her life saved my life at that point when she was born. But when she was born, I became obsessively, compulsively overprotective of her, especially when it came to him. And right after she was born, we got into an argument. I had a restraining order against him for about 4 years. But as she started to grow and ask questions, she knew his side of the family. I always maintained a relationship with them.
Sure.
My heart started to soften, and I started to go, wait a minute, like, I have to come to a place of forgiveness. And that doesn't mean that I have to be less protective of my child, but I have to come to a place in the present day. I can't it's not fair to her or to him, because I do believe people can change.
Sure.
She needs to know who her father is. For most of her life, from that point on, he was involved, but it was very minimally. I wouldn't allow her to be by herself with him. I would never speak that,
Right,
but I
right.
always made a
Sure.
way to where
Someone was out there.
someone was there. As she got older, his and my relationship got even better. He would tell me all of the time, like, you have no idea how much I needed to know you're okay and that you forgive me. And when I say I forgive him, I wholeheartedly mean that. But I also have to tell you the forgiveness was not for him.
It's for you.
I had
Right.
to forgive him for myself. Because if
That's
not,
fair.
I would have lived with that poison inside of me, and it would have never served me in a positive way.
Right.
And I thank God that I knew that early on
Sure.
and did forgive. But when she turned 18, I made a conscious decision. I no longer have to ever talk to him ever again. And you see the smile on my face?
Right. Sure. That's freeing, I'm sure.
It is. It is.
I mean, it is.
But
what a
I can also
prison.
tell you I wish him nothing but the best.
Absolutely. Because again, that's poison if not, right? So
That's right. That's right.
amazing and beautiful daughter from it. One child you have? One kid?
Together we had one child. I have 3.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I have 3 daughters.
Boys, girls, 3 daughters.
And 2 grandchildren,
Oh,
and
you're
one on the
cursed
way.
like me. Congratulations. That's amazing. Yeah, I got 2 daughters and a gift and a curse.
Oh, and I just love your daughters so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
They already
you.
have me wrapped around their
They are
pinky.
great. Our kids are great anyway. But
They are.
so man, we've come here now. You've made this journey. You figured out what's going on. You've detoxed. Knew you.
I started learning to empower myself. And also, so my passion has always been helping other people. And actually, how I got through so many years of not killing myself was through helping other people. Because that, I learned, filled my cup up. And I think I've always been this way, even before I got paralyzed, but it was more pronounced afterwards, right? Because I had just survived a trauma that somebody else caused. And I now realize kindness is one of the most beautiful things that we could ever embrace in this world.
Sure.
And I know because I fought that battle alone for so many years, and even while I was fighting it alone, it became a priority to me to never allow anybody else I ever saw struggling to fight it alone, to a fault.
Right.
And when I say that, for many years, I took in stray people, stray animals. I put myself into some compromised situations.
Nikki says I collect lost souls, but
I have on my forehead, like, invisibly tatted for people that are broken,
Right.
like, pick me,
Come
pick
here.
me.
I
And they
just
do,
think,
still,
I
they
think
pick me.
We talk about it a lot on the show, and personally, perspective is everything.
Yes.
And I think we recognize those that are broken or lost or need a little help or an encouraging word,
Because
naturally.
we too have
'cause
been
we've
broken and
there.
lost.
Yeah, I'm still broken and lost. Yeah.
I will
I'm
not.
finding it, but yeah.
I will not claim that for myself anymore.
Sure.
Now I've changed my language to I'm learning and
Good for
I'm
you.
putting all the pieces back together.
I like that. And I've picked up little pieces of dime gems or whatever that you've dropped since I've talked to you a couple times. And one thing we talked about in our first interview is visible scars versus invisible scars. And that one resonated with me because I think we offer empathy or sympathy to those that we can see physically suffering in some kind of way or dealing with something, but we can't see what most people are dealing with, right? So that was a very powerful way for you to put it, as the invisible scars, because I think that's probably the most common ones.
Yes.
And going back to saying you're an inspiration, I think so many of us carry that and get to these dark places, but will never even voice that. It's like a shame that comes along with that as well. So I guess my whole thing is we've made it this part. We're going to get more into the incredible physical things you are doing now. Tell us a little bit about that journey to what you're doing now currently. And
So as a part of my healing,
Right.
And not long, actually just a couple months after, I was back level again and doing good. With therapy, I was still doing the EMDR therapy. I had one of my mentees, so I mentor a lot of people in the Charlotte area, actually even all the way up to Asheville, people who are newly injured with spinal cord injuries. I go in, I tell them how much I know this sucks, but also that they can do it, because if I can do it, they can do it. And I kind of show them the ropes and how to navigate this world and find a new normal.
So you're 21 years now for you?
It'll be 21 years in January, yep.
How the progression now of accessibility, any better, any worse? We about the same?
We have a long way to go.
Long way to go, don't we?
We have come a very long way since the ADA was signed in 1990. Come a really, really long way. Actually, July is the ADA birthday, so this is the month that all month we celebrate accessibility in the ADA. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
We've come a long way,
Good.
but we still have a
Long way to
very,
go.
very long way to go.
And it's one of those things that, like, ignorance is, and it's not.
That's
I don't
the
think
biggest hindrance.
right, and
Yeah.
it's not really. I don't think intentional.
No.
But it sound like a little wimp right now. I had 2 injuries in the last 2 years, and going my whole life without injuries. It's crazy, those tiny injuries. Like TMI, I realized I wiped myself with my left hand.
Yes.
Didn't realize that until I injured my left hand.
Try getting paralyzed,
Right,
and not being able to stand up
I can't imagine.
to even pull your pants up.
Right.
So that's part of what people don't see.
Sure.
That's the invisible scars that we with the visible scars carry.
Sure.
And so people don't always understand when they see me out at the grocery store, and this happens a lot. I'll be at the grocery store by myself because I do everything by myself because
Right.
I'm an adult,
Right.
you know?
Right.
It's always the sweet little old lady that'll come over to me. I actually had one pay for my like $170 worth of groceries a couple months ago. And I kept telling her like, no, like, I can pay for my groceries. Like, I appreciate you so much. She's like, no, I have to do this because
Sure.
I am just so proud that you getting out of the house. And I'm
I was
like,
thinking that this morning.
and I have to like
be honest,
go
I
backwards, like
understand.
10, 9, 8, 7, like talk myself down because remember, this lady means nothing but good.
Right.
But I'm like, I want to be like, lady, if you knew half the stuff I do coming to the grocery store is nothing.
Right. Yeah.
You know? And so, but I have to, in that moment, I have to use my mindfulness and I have
Right.
to pause before I respond and just say thank you.
Right.
You know, because I realize one, she comes from a generation that was totally different with
Right.
people who were in chairs. And number two, I don't know what her battles have been.
Right.
Maybe the
And I
only
think-
thing she can
and I
do
can
on her
speak
own is
related-
go to the grocery store.
Yeah, but you know, I know it's being overweight things. I know the struggles, even sometimes just tying shoes and things like that. So it's perspective. We only know the struggles we know, and we know how hard life is for us. So I can only imagine.
But that's one of the things that I'm very vocal about, and that I hope that with everything that I'm doing, it's the one thing that people take away from what I say, is that yes, it's inspiring when you see somebody like me doing something that you would think somebody who is a paraplegic would never even think of doing or would be able to do. Yes, it's inspiring, but also know that they're probably fighting an invisible battle as well.
So let's dive into it. Let's talk about these things that you do because it's a lot. I'm tired thinking about it.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So 2019, after I got myself regulated, one of my mentees, one of the girls that I mentored when she was newly injured, she lives in Asheville. I actually crowned her Miss Wheelchair North Carolina some years after I had passed my crown.
Oh,
And that's how we initially met. She reached out to me, and I knew that she did these like mud races, like Tough Mudder stuff, but
Right.
I didn't really like know what it entailed. But I just remember like, hell
Bunch of
yes,
crazy
sis,
ass
I'm so
people, for
proud
those
of
that
you.
don't know.
Hell yes. Oh yeah, we're all a bunch of crazy.
I love it though. It's amazing.
She
Tough
reached out to
people.
me randomly and was like, hey, have you ever thought about doing one of the races that I do? And at this point, she knew that I was an athlete, so I compete in CrossFit. That's my main thing. I'm a surfer, which is my like passion is surfing.
Still. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And yes, I surf independently.
Yeah. Cool.
Because most people are like, wait a minute, how
A
does that
standard
work?
board or something that has.
It's a normal board.
Okay.
I just sit on my knees instead of stand up. So paddle out, sit
Yeah.
up on my knees. But anyway, she knew I was an athlete, so she was like, they need an athlete for the next race, which happens to be in Charlotte. And I was like, oh, okay, sure, I'll do it. Because I'm that girl, and all my friends know if it's something outside of the box, I won't say no.
Right.
More
for you.
dangerous
Yeah.
and crazy and like more of a shit show that it's probably going to be, I'm 110%
That's
in.
where I'm most comfortable.
Yeah, I live my life like
Yeah.
that. So
That's amazing.
she gave me this guy named Zach's phone number and is like, shoot him a text and whatever and go from there. So I shot him a text. He immediately called me. He's like, when can you get up to Asheville? And I was like, as soon as we started talking, he actually reminds me a lot of you. You guys remind me a lot of each other.
I'd like
You
to
have
meet
to
the
meet
guy.
Zach
Oh,
too.
cool.
But as he started talking to me, I'm like, oh, this guy's supposed to be in my tribe. Like we're kindred spirits. And I'm like, I can be in Asheville tomorrow. He's like, all right, cool. So I drive up there. He puts me in this off-road wheelchair with some ropes attached to it. He pulls me through this paved trail and down through like a creek, and it was a little cold and wet. And I was like, oh, this is it. Yeah, I can do this. When's the race? He's like, in 2 days. I'm like, all right, I'm there. Didn't realize I was what I had signed up for was an 8 to 10 mile race. It was the middle one. So there's 3 different lengths in Spartan that make a trifecta, which is the highest honor medal.
Sure.
There's a beast that is 14 miles. There's a super that's 8 to 10. And then there's the sprint that's just a little 5 mile.
Right.
I signed up for the super.
Right.
It had rained like the whole 2 days prior to this, so the mud was insane. Not even a half mile in, and I was head to toe covered in mud. I was freezing. So having a disability, there's certain things about me that are not normal, besides the fact that I can't walk. So this is TMI, but I'm okay with sharing this because I think it's very relevant. In order to pee, I have to use a catheter.
Right.
I use a catheter, I throw the catheter away. It's the only way I can empty my bladder.
Sure.
We all know what happens when you can't empty your bladder. You get toxic and you die.
Right.
So it's very important that I have these catheters and that I'm able to catheterize myself when I have to pee.
Right.
So we're, I don't know, miles into this race. I'm covered in mud. I'm freezing. There's no porta potties. I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. I didn't ask enough questions. I have to pee. Well, I know, for me personally, I get a condition that's called Autonomic Dysreflexia, which can make me stroke out. And it comes from something as simple as having a cut on my lower limbs that I can't feel, or my bladder being full. Or
So you have the sensation of it, or you just know by timing I need to
So
empty
I
it?
have full sensation of my bladder.
Okay.
But if I hold it too long, I will go into autonomic dysreflexia, which will cause me to pass out and then stroke out.
Oh, shit.
So it's a very scary thing when I start to feel the symptoms happening, and it happens all the time. I go do whatever I have to do to fix it, usually pee. Halfway through, I had to pee. So they set me on the ground in the mud, right? When you catheterize, it's supposed to be sterile.
Right, yeah, that's thinking.
My hands are muddy, my everything is muddy.
Right.
We couldn't get the catheter in.
Damn.
I'm freaking out. I just met these people. Everybody except for Zach, I met that morning.
Oh.
So there's another element. The reason that I wanted to mention this is that's another element to the invisible scars.
Sure.
So I have a hard time trusting people because of how I was injured.
Understandably, yeah.
That's gotten a lot better. But also, there's the what's the word? Not modesty, but being able to maintain my own dignity,
Sure.
right? So it's already bad enough that I have to explain to people that I have to use a catheter to go pee. Because then they're like, oh, do you have a bag?
Right.
No,
Right, yeah.
no.
Right.
I use it, I sit on a toilet just like you do. I use it, I throw it
Sure.
away, and I move on.
Right.
You know, but there's always questions that come with it. So here I am with a whole bunch of strangers, covered in mud, pants down in the middle of the woods. I have to pee. I'm
comfort zone
panicking
there, huh?
because I can't get this in the right hole. Like, it's bad.
Right.
This poor lady, who now is one of my best friends, comes over and she's like, look, if you're comfortable, I'm comfortable. I'll find the hole.
Right.
Like, we will drain your, and long story short, we ended up making it
kinda
happen.
woman.
By the time I got to the last obstacle, almost 10 miles in, I'm at the top of this A-frame. I'm bawling. I'm in so much pain. I'm exhausted, mentally, physically, spiritually, just done.
Right.
It's done. They come up. They literally are like, you have to trust us. We will get you down off of this obstacle. Right now, you're terrified. We can see it. You're not okay. Zach and another guy who I just met that day, who's now also one of my best friends, carried me off of this huge A-frame structure. We crossed the finish line, tears were shed, and I was like, when's the next one? And I've been addicted ever since. And the reason I've been addicted is because, yes, it was miserable. It was brutal. These races are not fun. I don't do them for fun.
Yeah, they don't look fun, and everybody seems to be so damn happy.
It's because they're crazy.
Right.
Like, they all
And
do
I
mental
love crazy
health
people.
evaluations.
Maybe I need to go play in the mud too.
What they do, what that race did for me was it helped me level up. It helped me realize how mentally strong I actually am. And that was something that I needed. So that was another element to my healing. After that race, I'm like, holy fuck. Like, I'm a badass bitch.
Right.
Like, I'm bad.
I can do anything I want.
Can't nobody tell me nothing at this point because I just conquered that. And it was hell. It was hell.
Sure.
And I've now been doing it for 3 years. I have done some really insane races all the way up to a 50K that I just did a couple months ago.
50K.
I think we clocked 27 miles, 60 obstacles, torrential downpour.
So is it the typical, like your everyday wheelchair, or do you have a specialized
I have
one
a specialized wheelchair
Okay.
with big, huge, knobby off-road tires. It also has some bigger caster wheels down at the bottom to go over tough terrain.
Right.
But that's not how I get through this race. I cannot do these races. It would be physically impossible for me personally to finish a race in less than 24 hours by myself.
Sure.
It's the team that helps me accomplish my goals. And without every single one of those humans, even if they're not helping with the chair, they're helping me in some way.
How many's on your team for a typical race?
Well, we actually, because our team is also, we are a 501c3 called More Heart Than Scars. The team is just a branch off of the organization.
Sure.
I'm the main athlete. When I started this 3 years ago, we were only able to have one athlete out on course. We have grown this team of volunteers and individuals that are now part of our chosen family to such a big scale that now we can have up to 4 adaptive athletes out on course at the same time.
Progression. That's beautiful.
Huge.
Yeah.
So we are impacting so many other people's lives now at a much larger scale than we were when I first came into the picture.
And walk us through this. So, these obstacles.
So I don't know a number.
Okay.
It's probably over 50 different people that are
Takes a whole
volunteers. Not all of them are there at every race. It depends on how many athletes we have
Some
out.
of them have disabilities as well.
Yes, but they're invisible.
Okay.
So most of their disabilities are mental health. So PTSD.
And is that the correct word, disability? I always want to make sure I'm politically correct in this. Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And then, right.
I suck with the terminology. Like, I know
Right.
all of the correct terminology,
Sure.
but I'm like...
Well, I try to be mindful.
Yeah.
I can't always get it right, but yeah.
No.
So this, walk us through a race. So I imagine the parts you can physically do, you're going to do yourself, and then because I've seen these courses. I haven't actually ran one myself. I think I would still be at the starting line.
You might have just opened up
Yeah,
a
I know,
whole
man.
can of
I know.
worms.
We got Chucky here. That he's crazy enough. He does CrossFit and all that
I
stuff
think
too.
you're crazy enough.
Yeah, we'll see. But so we go to each obstacle, and I've seen it. Like, I'm like, damn, that is a hard obstacle
It's
for
like
anyone.
Marine boot camp.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess everyone, you try to accomplish as much as you can on your own. I imagine
Correct.
the upper body kind of things, climb the ropes and things. And
my upper body, as small as I am, my upper body is ridiculously strong.
I'm opposite. I'm on my strengths lower. I'm weak as hell.
Well, you can be the legs. I'll
Alright,
be
cool.
the
That
top
works.
part. Yeah.
That works.
But
so 3 years of this now.
yes. So I do push my chair.
Right.
There are times when I can't push the chair. I have to solely rely on the people holding the ropes that are pulling my chair.
Sure.
The reason I can't always push is because sometimes I have to hold my body in the chair.
Sure.
So I don't get thrown out.
And you talked. Let's get into that. There's a couple parts from that thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about your organization in depth, but let's talk about that part, the physical part that you go through. Things you had mentioned, you have to duct tape your legs sometimes. And things.
No.
Oh, no.
We were telling the guy that made a
Got
big...
you.
Yeah.
So tell us just the physical part, because obviously, pain comes with these, with this course, period, and soreness and everything else. So just walk us through the pain, the physical pain, and you're dealing with it, and what you found works for you. We talked about it before, so let's go.
So the biggest hindrance for me, pain-wise, on course, is my spine, because I'm sitting in a wheelchair going over all kinds of terrain. So I'm being jarred. My spine is constantly being bounced, constantly. So into my seat. So although I do sit on a cushion that is made for that, there is no suspension on that chair. So there's no give at all. So that jars my back all day long, which will intensify my nerve pain. As well as just regular back pain. the second part of the pain that I deal with on course is actually my shoulders. So I've been in a chair for almost 21 years. I have tears in both rotator cuffs, and I have for about 3 years. I tore my first year doing Spartans, I tore both. And they're multiple tiny tears. So my shoulders, even right now as we're talking, my shoulders are always throbbing. But unless you hear me say I'm in a lot of pain,
Well, I imagine your tolerance at this
I
point
can
is
tolerate it.
pretty high.
I'm always in pain if we want to
Sure.
be honest.
Sure.
But it's not intolerable because I've learned how to tolerate it. But after one of those races, not from pushing my chair, but from the obstacles, my shoulders are done.
Right.
So there are times where if it's an obstacle that I can't fully independently do, which there's not very many that I can't independently do,
Right.
but the ones that I can't fully independently do, let's say somebody's carrying me through it, sometimes I will skip those obstacles just to save my
Give you a
shoulders
break. Sure.
for the ones that I can do.
I think you get a pass on that.
I do. Well, so that's the thing
Yeah,
with
for sure.
adaptive athletes, and we actually have had some controversies this year about it, where we had
course.
people saying like,
Karen.
"Oh, like she cut course, she
Yeah.
skipped an
I
obstacle,
think about
she
Cat
didn't
Williams
earn
with
that
the-
trifecta," and I'm like, "Who the fuck?" Like, first of all,
Right.
I'm not competing against anybody
Right.
out on that course except for myself.
People suck.
Second of all, if you're comparing yourself to an adaptive athlete and your ego is that fucking beat up that I beat you,
Right. I think about Cat Williams. Tink tink. Poor little tink.
Poor little tink tink. Poor little tink tink.
Tink tink whipping everybody's
I
ass.
love Cat Williams.
I
Cat
know,
Williams is one of
I
my
do.
favorite comedians.
But that's true, man. It's,
But if you're that, if your
you mean the
ego
motherfucker
is
with no
that
foots. That, remember that?
fucked up,
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
you're worried about
Right.
a person in a wheelchair and whether or not they did the race,
Right.
like you have some
Get a
problems.
life. Yeah, get a life. And it's, they're Karens. There's male Karens and female Karens.
Oh yes.
They're everywhere.
Yes.
So again, super impressed by all of that. Being an able-bodied person that
But that's
is-
not even the biggest
is
thing,
been
Mike.
I know. Tell them. I know. That's what I want to go to. Tell them what's coming up.
Yes, so part of the reason that I have been doing as many races as I've been doing over the last 3 years is because I am also training to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in 59 days from today. And it's funny, I'm not
I got
climbing.
anxiety right now just thinking about it.
Mount Kilimanjaro is the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, which just means it's a volcano. It's not part of a mountain range. It is
didn't know
called the
that.
Rooftop of Africa. It is in Tanzania, right on the Tanzanian-Kenyan border. I'm not doing this, though, because I desire to climb the world's tallest freestanding mountain. I could give a fuck about climbing a mountain.
Right.
And to be honest, totally transparent, I am terrified of this mountain. But that's
I am
why
too.
I'm doing it. That's why I'm doing it. I'm doing this to raise awareness about suicide and mental health wellness, specifically for everybody, but specifically for the disabled community, because we don't have enough resources that are specific to disability. So you call, for instance, the National Suicide Hotline when you're suicidal. I've done it before. And the person on the other line, while they're very, very trauma-informed and trained to talk you off the ledge, they don't fucking understand my life.
Right.
And they never can. I hope and pray they never will have to. But when you have somebody on the other line that has no clue about the things that you're facing and battling, it's not much help.
Yeah.
And I ended up hanging up the one time I called. I said, "I'm sorry I even called," and I hung up. And that was another
Has that been
brick
improved
on my
on yet?
shoulders of fighting this battle alone.
Is there someone available on that hotline now?
No.
No.
So there aren't really any disability specific mental health resources. There are starting to be more awareness about it because I know, me personally, I've lost countless friends in wheelchairs to suicide.
I was going to ask, do you know if there's statistically what that number looks like? I know.
So that's the problem.
Right. There's.
The statistics are very vague,
Okay.
which pisses me the fuck off, because what that tells me is that the disabled community is not as important. And so when I first started doing this and planning to climb this mountain, the first person that I lost that was kind of the catalyst to throw me into this, I'm doing this for her, was an able-bodied friend of mine here in Charlotte, Claudia. She was also in the African American community. Her daughters have now formed a 501c3 around the African American community in suicide and mental health, because that's another
niche.
Yes, another niche that's not being addressed. And it's taboo in that culture to talk about mental health, which is why people are killing themselves.
Right.
So initially, I was really focusing on the African American community because that's how I lost Claudia. But after I lost Claudia, literally a week after I lost Claudia, I lost 2 more friends back to back with disabilities.
Wow.
And I'm going, okay, wait a minute. Her family has the African American community covered. They now have what's called the Black Light Foundation. And it's specific to North Carolina, but it's also a national organization. I need to focus on my community, on this community, because at that point, I had lost so many friends and chairs that I had become desensitized to it. Where I'm like, oh, another one bites the dust. And then when somebody would say, like, oh my God, I never in a million years would have ever thought that person, they were so inspirational, so happy, I would
Seems
go.
like that's the ones, is, you know, the happiest people.
The
and
Robin Williams.
Ones, the ones that never threaten the things. And then I've learned from the past people to say completed suicide instead of committed, you know, because it gives such a dark, negative connotation.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, completed, because it is, as you know, it's something that was probably fought long before the act.
It was already planned.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you know, as you sit here and talk about mental health and resources, we're limited on that anyway.
We are.
And it seems like we're just now even starting to recognize it as real.
Only since the celebrities and professional athletes have started bringing mental health and what mental wellness into the light, into the media.
Right.
But it's still very taboo. And
Yeah,
it
you
shouldn't
should like
take
give you
these
cocaine to
celebrities.
remove the ghost out of your brain. That's used to be the treatment or whatever.
Right.
That, you know, so I feel like we're on the right path, but there's so much to be understood, and
so much
and it seems like so many of our current day problems are directly linked to mental health and the lack of resources.
Yes.
So you saw this direct need for particular people in chairs.
I decided to climb a mountain.
You decided to climb a mountain. And what's the name of that organization again?
More Heart Than Scars.
More Heart Than Scars.
Is our 501c3.
Okay.
Now, it's not specifically mine,
Sure,
but I'm an integral part of it.
We say we, it's ours, mine,
But
everything.
More Heart Than Scars is not who's helping me climb the mountain. It's people from my team, but there's also people who are just Spartan racers and who are friends.
So is this something, this is your deal? Then?
This is my deal. And the reason why is because my bigger picture vision is to have a 501c3 that is national and specific to mental health for people with disabilities.
Wow.
A hotline that they can call and not only get the resources in their area that they need for their own wellness, but also have somebody on the other line who also lives this life and is trained to talk them off the ledge.
Have you had instances as well where you've been put in that position since this? Have you? Yeah, I probably often.
Because of what I do for a living, which we haven't gotten into.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, we got a lot to cover.
9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10, I am on the phone daily, at least once a day, with somebody who's suicidal and who has a disability.
Wow.
I have now, just over the last 3 years, become very recognized as a mental health coach in the disabled community. Although I will tell you, most of my clients, my one-on-one clients, are able-bodied. Wow. I coach anybody and everybody. Anybody that has some sort of shit that they need to work through, I'm here.
I'm looking around the room. I think we could all sit and talk to you.
A lot of things. So I take people on pro bono.
Sure.
And I do that under the name of the charity. What they don't know is I'm not getting paid for it. Right. I'm doing it because I'm passionate about it. Anybody that is a part of any of the online disability forums or mental health forums that I'm a part of or that I manage, they know that they can pass my direct cell phone number to anybody in the world who needs to talk. And so my phone, unless I'm recording a podcast with my friend Mike,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
phone is always on.
Yeah, I feel mine blowing up.
I get
now.
woke up
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and it's somebody that I don't know. But I've only lost 3 people in 3 years that I was
Working with.
helping, actively helping, which was really hard because then I like reflect, like, what didn't I do? What could I have did
Yeah,
different?
no.
But what stops me from going there is knowing they already made a decision.
Yeah, that
and there was
decision-
nothing I could do to deter them from that.
Yeah, it's
And I get that. That's the scary part.
pain.
Is
It's the end of pain.
that when somebody chooses suicide, I understand why they did.
Yeah.
And that is why I do what I do. That's why. And that actually helps keep me alive,
Sure.
even though I'm not suicidal anymore.
That's good. Do you fear that ever coming back? Do you ever feel remnants of that?
I've had glimpses of it in the last 3 years. I've had some moments where it has come back, but that's when I call upon my support system, my people, my tribe. And I know at any point in time I can call any of those people at any time of day or night, and they're going to pick up the phone.
So I want to get more into what you actually do so much more. Let's talk a little bit more about this mountain climb. Intense training. From the
Yes.
mountain climbers I know in my life, I know the air gets thin up top. So there's one thing. And is this going to be a multi-stage thing? Is there parts that you're going to?
So to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, they are giving me 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
That's not because it takes 7 to 10 days to get to the top. That is so I can acclimate to altitude. So at certain different points on the mountain, we will stop and camp. I think starting at 14,000 feet, we camp for multiple days so that we can acclimate and see how I'm going to respond to the altitude. Unfortunately, there's not a lot that you can do to train for altitude. I do have an altitude mask that I wear in the gym.
Sure.
I actually wear it up to 3 days every day, or up to 3 hours every day. Even if I'm not in the gym for some reason, like today will be a no gym day.
Right.
I'll push my neighborhood is a mile loop. I'll do it 3 times with mask on. And there's some steep hills, and that's just so that my body can get used to working on less oxygen, as well as I can pinpoint. So initially when I started using it, the problem that I had was I would get a headache, which is the first sign of altitude sickness.
Right.
So I had to learn what I had to do to keep myself from getting that, which was just make sure I'm really hydrated, really nourished.
Wow.
Other than that,
So
the
you're
only
going all the way to the
training
peak. That's the goal. To the peak. To the top.
to the peak, which is 19,426 feet. So we are 600 feet below the death zone.
Right.
If you don't know what the death zone is, at 20,000 feet, that's when there's not enough oxygen to live.
Right.
I will be a little less than 600 feet below that.
So
at the
talking
top.
about oxygen to live, you and I share. We need certain things to live. That being cannabis.
Yes.
What are we doing about that
Yes.
in Africa? I
So
imagine.
that's actually something that I have been super anxious about. It's one of my fears because I know, well, number one, cannabis is totally illegal in Tanzania,
Right.
any form of it.
Right.
Nicotine is illegal,
Right.
even though I've heard the porters that help us climb the mountain are smoking cigarettes the entire time.
I'm sure they can help you with cannabis too. I just
so-
wonder if you thought about it.
Right. So, well, what I have thought about, I know I will not be able to bring flour with me.
Sure.
So, typically when I travel, even on planes, I always travel with flour.
Yeah. Me too.
And I've been doing it for 20 plus years, and I know I'm risking, it's a federal offense, whatever.
It's hemp.
It's my medicine.
That's all from
Yeah.
now. It's hemp. That's all you gotta say.
Well,
It's
I
hemp.
dated a guy that was the supervisor for TSA in
Yeah,
Charlotte.
They don't catch shit.
He's like, those dogs are looking for bombs. They're
Right.
looking for explosives,
Right.
not your weed. He's like, but I can smell you. Just know I can smell
Right,
you, know?
right, for sure.
And I'm very open about it. I don't.
So
I
we're
hide it.
jumping around here. Let's talk about a little bit about cannabis and what it does for
The
you.
well, hold on, I gotta
All right, go
tell
for
you.
it, go
So
for
the
it.
only thing that I can come up with that will work for me to get it over there is to have hard candies, because I can put them in like a Hall's cough drop bag, and hopefully, you know what just happened to Brittany Griner, the
Yeah.
girl. Yeah. Hopefully,
We can help you with that.
Okay. That's because that is one of my anxieties.
We can help you get what you need for sure. What does cannabis do for you? While we're talking about it, we talked about it already. Tell us the role it plays.
Cannabis literally gives me the best quality of life that I can have. And I firmly believe that. It helps the quality of my life in so many ways. Number one, it helps me with focus. So I'm an ADD person.
Right.
I have a really hard time focusing, and part of it is because I have 150,000 things going on all the time.
I see it as a superpower as well, myself. I have a bit of it too.
No, it's definitely one of my superpowers to be all over the place.
Yeah. Squirrel.
Yeah, sorry for everybody else, but we're cool.
Right.
But it does help me focus when I need to focus.
Perfect.
It also helps with my chronic pain. It alleviates a lot of that pain. It doesn't take it away, but it alleviates it, and it helps me sleep.
Yes.
And sleep without spasms.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was wondering.
It takes away my spasticity totally.
Incredible.
Takes it away.
That's amazing. Let's get into what do you do? I mean, everything.
So,
but yeah.
Well, you obviously know I am a disability advocate, a nationally recognized disability advocate. But my 9-to-5 job, how I pay my bills, two different things. So my 9-to-5 that helps pay the bills but is supplemental is I still contract for companies in the disability industry. So the DME, the durable medical equipment industry, I go in, I'm basically a consumer advocate. I talk about how this helps our life. My 9-to-5 that consumes most of my life is I am a mental health coach. Wow. Trauma informed, which just means I am certified. I have 6 certifications, but the main one that I'm proud of is being trauma informed. I am able to work with people who have survived trauma, which is a really, really hard thing to do as a coach because coaches focus on the future. We don't necessarily focus on the past. I do have certifications to be able to help people with their past and overcome certain things that present themselves with mental illness, but I am not a clinical counselor on purpose.
Because then you're probably restricted and restrained.
It's very triggering to me.
Sure.
So I found that I work best with people who have a growth mindset and who can stop and say, I can no longer do this alone. Can we do this together? And that are proactive in their own wellness. I have very low tolerance for people who play victim and cannot be their own advocate and say, my life fucking sucks, but only I can change it.
And that's what, I try to live it in and preach all the time. I've lived it myself, literally, manifesting the life you want and choosing what you want and just doing it.
Yes,
and
we are the creators of our reality.
Right.
And it all starts with our
thoughts. And you hit on that, even the negative parts. People don't realize sometimes the conversations we have with ourselves or those around us absorb, that's all energy.
Absolutely.
So, and at 40.
We're all beings of energy.
Absolutely. At 41,
we're the same age.
Yeah. Hey, look at us go. When's your birthday?
October 10th, 1980.
Oh, wow. I'm the 15th, 80. I'm Scorpio. You're Libra.
I'm a Libra, yeah.
Libra's good people.
Yeah.
Scorpio, too.
Both my parents are Scorpios.
I am so sorry.
No, actually, so I have a Scorpio moon.
Oh, yeah.
So I have behavior like a Scorpio.
I'm so sorry for that, too. We are ashamed.
We're deep
working
people.
on it. Yeah, we are. It's all passion. It's love.
Yes.
But, and I think there's some relevance to all of it. Even numerology we were doing the other day, and it was like, man, did someone punk me and write this about
it's all
me?
connected.
But so now that you do 9 million things a week, it sounds like your schedule's cram packed. You're doing this, so I imagine you're both training and being an advocate and being someone to call. Do you have any time to yourself?
I make time for myself. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. I make it a priority to make time for myself, even if it's an hour a day.
Sure.
The thing for myself is usually smoking a blunt and reading a book.
I love it.
We have TV, but
so
we
that's
don't
your
really
favorite
watch
way
TV.
to consume is a blunt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tobacco or no? Oh, no tobacco. We got hemp
Well,
wraps. Yeah. We have to get you some hemp wraps.
I prefer. So
I understand.
I
Nothing hits like that
prefer-
tobacco right there backwood.
I prefer
Right.
cigarellos. I
Right.
prefer Swishers.
I
but-
was old school, so I was Optimo Sports and,
I
and
hate
Dutch Master.
Optimos.
I know
I
that's
hate
back
the
in the day,
leaves.
but we got backwoods over here. But we have some great hemp wraps that I need to get you on. I've tried to be complete.
So the reason I don't use any kind of a wrap, the only reason I buy Swisher Sweets all the time, I will do games too.
Right.
I don't like the leaf though.
Right.
But the reason I do Swisher Sweets all the time is because I can't roll joints. I can't roll anything that's thinner than a blunt paper.
We can fix that too. I'm gonna hook you to.
But I can
up
pearl a
today.
blunt though,
Oh,
like
yeah.
perfectly. No seams.
I'm telling you, we got these raw cones, and it's the only way I'll smoke. And we have stuffers, so we can hook you the hell up. I'm telling you, we're gonna get you
That'd be
away from
amazing.
that. We got hemp wraps and stuffers. No more tobacco from here. We're done with tobacco. Right,
Yes.
Red?
Yes.
No more tobacco. But nah, it's so again, 45 days. You said 46 days. How many days before this race?
Oh, no,
Or
I
for the
have-
climb. Excuse me.
No, 59 days.
59 days.
59 days.
Do you
I
have
leave
like
on September
do you have
11th.
like marks on the wall, or are you counting down?
No, I
are
actually
you
check
growing
my
anxiety?
Delta app every day.
Yeah.
And it tells me how many days I have until I check in for my flight.
So I imagine
So-
your how many team members will be on this?
So
one?
this is going to be a big. So I have, I think, for my team with the chair, we have 5 people, which is, we could use a couple more. We do have 4 spots available, but nobody really just has $6,000 sitting around to be like,
Sure.
oh, I'm going to go climb the mountain with this crippled girl.
Right. Yeah.
So, but we also have a whole film crew, drone operators, camera people, sound people for the documentary. So
Oh,
I'm
camera
also
people.
currently filming a documentary.
Yeah. What's the name of
and
that one?
They are, the whole film crew is going to Kilimanjaro with me.
Wow. What's the name of that documentary? Can
The
you share it?
documentary is going to be called Meandering Scars.
Meandering Scars.
And I would have to have them explain the name because they can do it way better than I can.
I just want to see it. If you're involved, I definitely. I'm intrigued for sure.
Yeah, so it's about my mental health journey, my personal story, but even more so about my friends who are no longer here and the ones who are here still fighting. I'm climbing the mountain for them,
Okay.
the ones that are still here.
Sure.
That's who. So
It's-
they're actually my friend Claudia that I told you was the catalyst,
Sure.
the first suicide that pushed me into going, yep, I'm going to climb this mountain. Totally whim thing. Like at first I was
Yeah.
like,
Where did this come
Everest.
from? You're flipping
One
through
of
TV.
my teammates posted on Facebook something about Mount Kilimanjaro. Like, wouldn't it be awesome? This is my bucket list. And I was like, let's fucking do it. He was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, I'm serious. And then Zach is like, no, she's serious.
Yeah. Hey.
I'm a very whim
You're
person.
crazy until you're not, right?
Yeah.
And then to achieve, what an incredible feat! I can't wait to. I want to have you back in here after that too. You got to promise me to come
Absolutely.
back and talk about the whole thing, and I can't wait to see the
Well,
documentary.
so I'm also have been writing a book
Okay.
for the last 5 years.
All right.
But it's been when life happens that I would write and just pour everything into that. I'm finishing this book after Kilimanjaro.
Amazing. What's the name of the book?
I can't tell you
Can't
that.
tell. Okay. Well, good. We'll have to have you back on to promote that.
Absolutely.
So, and forgive me, I want to keep the name up front. The name of the one nonprofit you work with.
More Heart Than Scars.
More Heart Than Scars.
.org.
Do you have a name thought up for what your nonprofit is going to be?
I don't yet.
You don't yet.
I don't
What do we
yet.
need to do to help you get that going? Anything we could do to help?
So one of the biggest things is cannabis will be a part of everything. So I have
Well, it
a whole
already
bunch
is.
of wellness
Sure.
stuff that I told you I have like 50,000 things going on. I have published 4 journals that are all based around mindfulness, gratitude. One is like specifically for women. Some are from people who are trauma survivors. They're for sale on Amazon. I also have a line of apparel that has all like uplifting things. So everything is centered around mental health and mindfulness.
Right.
I want to be able to have, and this is part of the bigger vision in my 501c3, to have a group of us that are going to be the ones, because it might still not be legal in North Carolina then, that are fighting to
No
get
shit.
this medicinally legalized,
Right.
but also to have resources to be able to get the medication that they need, because that's part of the mental health aspect of having a disability.
That's something I can help with.
There's thousands more of me that are suicidal right now because they feel like a criminal because they can't go get weed.
You know, it's funny. I get asked a lot about the whole argument of gateway drug,
That's
and
bullshit.
I agree with that, the gateway drug. But I do think it is a gateway behavior,
Yes.
and I think we start learning that we're different and that we isolate and we feel wrong. And I think a lot of people feel like, well, damn, I've already fucked this up. Let me just go ahead and try this too,
Yep.
you know, or their parents told them their whole life, all this sucks, and they smoke weed. They're like, holy shit, this is great. Let me try the next thing my parents told me wasn't great, you know. So,
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you.
but yeah, I will be that person for you in any way I can. This is my why, you know, cannabis.
Well, and this is part of why I want you to meet my cannabis advocate in California, Felicia.
Would love to.
She fights nationally. I can't remember what her organization is called, but it's huge.
And that's the problem we have too is, and you probably found too, there's all these organizations fighting for the same thing. I feel like if we could all somehow get in touch with each other and say, let's just make one group, and then we'll really have a voice. And I think that's by design.
Which
They
is
want
part
us.
of my vision
Sure.
for cannabis.
Right.
That's part of my vision of being able to be a facilitator, because I have people in all different legal states
Right.
that are advocates for me,
Sure.
and that break federal laws, giving me the medicine
Yeah, the
I
U.S.
need.
Postal Service is the biggest drug carrier in the world, for those that don't know that. I mean, it is what
So
it is.
true.
It's true.
It's so
And
true.
people want to know, how do you do it? Well, you ship it to damn mail. That's how you do it. So,
I've been getting stuff shipped to me for 12 years.
right. And and hemp. That's what it's getting shipped is hemp. Everybody gets hemp. But nah, it's, you know, and same kind of deal, same struggles and things. Like you're talking about bringing light to mental health, light to people with disabilities and accessibilities through the ADA Act and everything else. Same fight in cannabis. You know, we're fighting ignorance. We're fighting propaganda. We're fighting everything on this.
Limiting belief systems
100%.
and societal programming and conditioning.
And the same deal is same thing as mental health.
Yeah.
I can tie cannabis into the solution to most modern day problems, including funding for mental health and drug rehabilitation.
Even fuel.
And fuel, yeah.
The hemp plant itself.
If it can be made out of, if it can be made by oil, it can be made out of hemp, and that's something that
Look
we
at Colorado's economy right now.
yeah, and California had a surplus of tax money, but it's you know, and we got a long way to go, but I definitely want to be part of that fight with you, and you know, and to our viewers and everybody too, if we could support anything with this Kilimanjaro climb. Are you collecting any kind of money or funds
So we
or
have
fundraising?
a GoFundMe that's still up.
Okay.
That was because my teammate, One Leg,
Yeah,
we call him One
I
Leg.
still want to meet this guy too.
Yeah, One Leg Beast.
Yeah.
We were trying to raise money for him to come with me, but we've already passed the deadline of when we
Sure.
needed to have money in, and we weren't able to raise the amount of money. But I kept the GoFundMe going in case there was anybody that wanted to help. Yes, there still is a huge need. I have no gear at all.
None.
The reason I have no gear is because it's all way too expensive for me.
What kind of gear are we talking?
So I have to, because going from the bottom of Kilimanjaro to the top is metaphorically from going from the equator to the North Pole. My body does not respond well to cold. It's a part of my spinal cord injury. So having a spinal cord injury, my body doesn't regulate temperature. So if I'm too hot or too cold, I can go into that condition. It's called autonomic dysreflexia that can cause me to stroke out and die. I'm very lucky that I can deal with heat better than I can cold. Actually, I prefer to be hot. As long as I have water around me, I'm good. As long as I can put water on the back of my neck, I'm good. But when I'm cold, my body can't warm itself up. Actually, in 2019, the only race that I did not finish, that I DNF'd, was because I got hypothermia. My lips were purple. I was falling asleep.
Will you have a physician with you on this?
So we will have 2 registered nurses with us. And I honestly should be a physician.
Man,
I'm better
I'm sure
than
you
most
probably,
of my doctors.
and you
They
know
usually,
more about yourself for sure.
well, they usually look at me and go, "What do you think?"
Right,
And
yeah.
I'll tell them, and they're like, "You're probably right."
You're probably right, yeah.
So
your
but
equipment,
the biggest thing is having warmth.
how much is this equipment? And how, like, is there several
So
pieces
I
of it?
still need about $1,000.
Okay.
And that is partially to get the wheels for my chair for Kilimanjaro. So the wheels are called magic wheels. They are power assist.
Right.
Which just means they work like a mountain bike
Right.
with gears, where it makes it easier to push as it gets harder. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It makes it easier to, and they have power on them to where it's not a power
Power
chair,
assist.
but the power can take over if I'm struggling.
Battery power too, so we have to have a way to charge those too.
So we have
$1,000, you said?
Yeah,
All
well, $1,000 is towards the wheels, towards my cold weather gear. That's very expensive.
Right.
Like I can't afford a $100 Columbia jacket.
Sure.
That's why I live in the South.
I feel you. So if I can tell you now, Crown Town Cannabis will pick up that $1,000 for you right now. So we'll do that, no doubt. Yeah, that's the least we can do. So
You've got to be fucking kidding me
nah,
right
for
now.
sure. It's the least we can do. We'll make that
Oh my
happen,
God,
no
Mike.
doubt. Hey,
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll make that happen, no doubt. Luckily we are in a position to be able to help, so we can.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we'll take that off your
like
plate.
I don't want to start crying. But
Nah,
I'm a
that's cool. Don't do
crier,
that because
so-
I'm a crier too. But we're good.
Thank you.
But no, we're gonna take that off your plate. That's done. So that's cool.
Thank you so much.
And we're gonna help you with the making sure you have the medicine you need too
Thank
when
you.
you get there. I'm really
We've
really good at getting things through like that.
Well,
so.
we've really been. I've been looking up, like watching YouTube videos on how to make my own hard candies.
Oh, we can make
and,
all
like,
that happen, bro. It's no problem. You
But
came
then I'm
to the
like,
right
when am I going to
place.
find time to
Oh
make
yeah,
edibles?
you came to the right place, man. We'll do it up for you, no doubt. And there's we'll talk about it. There's plenty of things we can do to help that. So,
Okay.
what does the path look like in preparation beyond the financial, beyond the physical, beyond the mental? Where are we at in preparation for this? Everything else is a go or
Fucking ready.
ready?
I'm so ready.
Love it.
I'm so ready. Because of COVID, this was supposed to happen in 2020.
Sure.
And then everything shut down. I've literally been waiting and waiting. I was told at one point last year that I couldn't do it because I wasn't vaccinated. And I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
Right.
I mean, there was like all of these things. So I went and I got vaccinated.
Right.
And after that, I was like, there will be nobody
Right.
that will tell me anymore
That can't.
that I can't.
Can't.
Because that's what I've heard for almost 21 years. I can't,
I've
shouldn't, I won't.
learned to love it. I love the negativity. It fuels me.
Me too.
It fuels me.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Maybe all it is people expressing what they can't do.
Yes.
And
And
it's
trying to project it onto you.
correct.
Yes.
100%. So
My family has learned, don't tell me I can't. Because then I'm going
my
to show
family has
up
not
and show
learned
out.
that. They know that, but they don't know that. They haven't figured it out. Don't do that.
Yeah,
Nikki
yeah.
figured it out, but nah. So, we're running out of time. I'm gotta have you back on here. 100% to
absolutely.
follow up.
It
What-
literally takes me 26 minutes to get here.
Perfect.
I live right by Concord Mills.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. That's where my truck currently is. But yeah, we got to have you here more. Got to get some Crown Town swag for you too.
Well, and I
to
gotta
rock
come
out.
back and love on those babies of
Oh,
yours
yeah.
because I'm
You can
so
take
in
them
love.
anytime. Hey, look, I will send them home with you. Right
I will
now.
take them.
No problem.
Seriously, I have
No
a pool.
problem.
We can go swimming.
Right. I love. Oh, that's their jam right there. Swimming. Give me all the plugs, all the shout outs, all the how we can find you on social media to follow your journey, your
Yes.
book, your documentary, your
Yes.
everything that makes us inspired by you.
So on all the social media platforms, I'm super easy to find. It's just Erika Bogan, ErikaBogan. All my handles are just my name. And on all of my bios on every social media platform, there's a bio site, a link. And if you click on it, it actually brings up all of my links for my apparel, my journals, Kilimanjaro project, my coaching, my website, all of my social
GoFundMe's
media
on there as well.
handles.
Awesome.
Everything is on there. Yep,
Amazing.
everything is on there.
So, what-
Hold on, one
go
more.
for it. Go for it. Yeah.
The 501c3 that I am a part of that helps me do these races is morehearthanscars.org.
.org.
Yep.
And I'm sure they're on social media and things as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that, if you find me, you'll find them.
So if there's any one message that you're doing all this for, if you had the platform standing on top of that mountain and you're saying, this is what you need to hear from me, what is it?
Your life matters.
Your life matters.
Your life matters. It matters to me.
Yeah. That's huge. That's powerful. Anybody in the room, questions or anything? Nah.
Yeah,
I figured. Yeah, what you got?
Just when I was coming here today, I had some anxiety about my children seeing you as parents. What can we teach our children about people with disabilities?
Yeah, in case-
how to be.
In case you didn't get it on the microphone, Nikki's asking, advice on giving children and approaching people with a disability or in a
So
chair.
when you
or
approach
whatever.
somebody that has a disability, you just say hi.
Right.
It's all about teaching them that they're human. They just move different.
Okay. So we went through.
And that's
I mean,
exactly,
that's simple.
Yeah.
and that's exactly, I'm the mom that
Sure.
when I see, and this happens all the time, I'll be in Target, because I'm a Target-aholic.
Right.
And there's a little kid that gets the big eyes and is like, Mom, why is she in that? And the mom drags the kid like, that's rude.
Right.
And like hushing them. And I'm like, no. And I'll roll right over to the kid, totally ignore the parent,
Right.
and go, do you want to know why I'm in the wheelchair?
Right.
Your daughter did it to me this morning.
Right.
And I just say, of course, I don't say domestic violence. I say, do you wear your seatbelt in the car?
Right.
Because I didn't wear my seatbelt and I got hurt.
Right.
And so I have to use this to walk. My legs don't work like yours do. But I tell parents, and they're always like, thank you so much for telling them. And I'm like, no, we're human. You
Yeah.
just say hi.
Because it
And
comes from a
ask.
good place. Especially, I can speak for my daughter Scarlett. She misses nothing. There's no detail at all. She sees everything, and it's just pure curiosity.
Yeah.
And
It's innocent.
Sure.
It's a gift.
And we've had it happen a lot of times. Like, she talks about daddy's tall belly and different pigment cut tones
She's
and
noticing
people.
differences,
Right. And
yeah.
and I want to teach her that there are differences, but not to harm or hate for that. Embrace differences because that's what makes us all special.
And so it's
beautiful.
just as simple as her legs don't work like yours. Maybe she got hurt.
Yeah.
So she uses the wheelchair to move. Like I tell kids all of the time, my wheelchair is my wings.
Sure.
This is what helps me fly.
Yeah, and
not a negative
and as
thing at all.
we spoke earlier, there some of the toy
Thank you for
companies
asking
and
me that.
some of the toy companies and things are coming around as well. Our children at home, we have wheelchair Barbie, and we also have a prosthetic
that.
limb Barbie, and I love that representation out there. There's a lot of people that have suffered injuries and things, and off camera, I'd love to tell you to some about the people I know that are struggling as well, and I would love to get them in contact with you.
Absolutely.
But man, incredible. I have looked forward to this, and it's exactly what I thought it would be. You're
Awesome, me too.
a kind, kindred soul, and I really appreciate your energy and your efforts and looking to, even with the struggles you come over, you're still looking to help others. And that's
Absolutely.
very important in this world. And I think,
So it makes all the struggle worth it.
sure. And that's what I think cannabis is just that in so many ways. It's a commonality, that it's that bond. And I think it brings so many like-minded people together and people that have a different vision on what this world is and a different vision of what the world could be.
Yeah.
And we need more people like you. So thank you for that. And, hopefully we could all learn to be a voice. And I would love to have anybody you think worthy being on the show.
Yeah.
And I want to continue and be part of your journey as well. And we got to
you guys are stuck with me.
Sure, cool. Don't threaten me with a good time. I'm definitely going to stay completely involved in following up in your story because I love it. Again, I get bored easily and not inspired often, and I am both with you. So. Again, thank you for your time and your incredible schedule to make this time. It means even much more. But
So the funny thing yesterday, when I showed up here, she's immediately like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, are you kidding
this
me?
story. Yeah, forget about it.
And totally just like I always do, I paused and I'm like, there's a reason. I don't know what the reason is, but there was a reason why I had to drive down here. My best friend, her husband works right off Starlita, right down the road.
Right
His shop is down there. It's Quality Materials and Installation. They do flooring.
Yeah.
And I like, call him, like, I'll do a drive-by hugging, because I had another shirt on that said hug dealer, but it was
I love
green
that.
and black.
Yeah.
And these are my favorite
Good colors.
shirts. And
Yeah.
so I call Kevin, are you at the office? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm coming to hug you. I hugged him, left him. I get up by my house, and there's a Marathon gas station.
Right.
And I see this big truck, a Coca-Cola truck.
Right.
And the guy's getting all these cases out, like he's stocking the store. All of a sudden, he drops 2 cases, and Coke bottles went everywhere. People are such assholes. They're driving around him over the Coke. Nobody's stopping to help him. I passed by because I was going too fast to stop.
Right.
But I got to the neighborhood right up the road, and I did a U-turn, and I came back, and I got out of my car, and he's still picking up Coke bottles. And I start picking up Coke bottles, and he was like, oh, he's like, you don't have to do that. Thank you so much. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, these assholes are just driving by. He said, I saw you.
Right.
And I said, well, I didn't come back to pick up Coke bottles, but since you still have some, I'll help you.
All right.
I said, I came back to hug you.
Yeah.
And he was like, excuse me? And I was like, you look like you're having a really hard day, and I think you just need a hug.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got my hug dealer shirt on.
Yeah.
He got tears in his eyes, and
Sure.
he was an older gentleman. He bent down, and he started shaking, and he was like, you have no idea what this means to me.
Sure.
And it was my reason. I'm like, this is why
Absolutely.
I thought Wednesday was Thursday and drove all the way to Charlotte. Had I not timed it just the way I did, I would have never saw that man and never been able to give him a hug.
And
I didn't
those-
even get his name. I
Those
hugged him, he
smallest
cried,
things.
and we
I mean,
left.
who knows? He could be in a bad, dark place and contemplating
Right.
suicide, and
I
that
could
could be
tell
the thing.
he was. I could feel him as I went.
And so
by.
often I try to, because you feel it. You, like you said, you feel it. I've more times than I can mention. I get people coming up all the time asking me for money, and I'm a joint giver. I don't give money. And I've literally watched people's whole demeanor change. Like we've watched people high five
I don't
each
give
other,
money,
dance.
but I've been known to go
Sure.
around the corner to a drive-through and
I'll
bring
feed
back
'em.
food.
Yeah, yeah. Food's my love language.
Me
so,
too.
you know, for sure, food and weed.
Yeah.
That's how we roll.
You're
But
speaking my language now.
for sure. But I'm gonna hold you to it, and I'm sticking to it. Crown Town's gonna take care of that for you.
Thank you.
Anything I can do to help you in the future, and send all your people
I just
to
want
me.
to hang out.
Yeah, hey, that's what happens around here a lot. Trust me, it's a lot
Most
worse
of my
places
friends
to
live
hang
out
out.
of town.
Yeah,
so.
as you'll see, we kind of collect folks around here too. Sometimes Chucky has to play the hard line, get everybody out of here. But we love people, and this
too.
plant brings the best people, and together we're going to change this world.
Absolutely.
All of us, for sure. And
Absolutely.
thank you for all that you do in your advocacy, and never give up the fight.
Thank
And
you.
it does make a difference. And
On my
you do
bag,
matter.
it actually says, every day I fight,
Perfect.
and I'll never stop fighting.
Stop fighting, you stop living. We don't
never
need
stop
it.
fighting.
So, again, thank you so much. And, again, if anybody interested, please follow her on social media. I'm on that camera. Please follow her on social media. Follow us at letsbeblunt.org. Like and share. Sign up for notifications for when we go live. We're trying to do this every Thursday. Listen, you got a story to tell, too. You are important, too. Whether it's cannabis related or not, we need to hear from you. I want to hear people that oppose from this, too. I need to hear the opposition. Everybody has a reason why. I'm not above hearing it. I think you're an idiot for feeling cannabis is bad, but we'll talk about it.
Hey, we can educate.
No, we can educate, but it's all love. We all have a story. We all have a background. We all have a why. And
Yeah.
thanks for sharing yours. And if you got one to share out there, please come and see us. And again, right after Kilimanjaro, when you finish your book tour and everything else, next stop's here. So,
Absolutely.
and
I'm in.
thank you so much. And as always,
I'll actually have the film crew with me.
even better. I sometimes got film crews too. We're working through documentaries and things as well. We're opening a cannabis-themed resort in Virginia.
Shut the front door.
Yeah, called Canaland. I
I
can't
might
wait
be
to
moving.
share.
I never thought I would go anywhere but more south.
I'm
but I might be going
I'm
to
thinking
Virginia.
muddy events and all kind of things we could possibly do. But yeah,
I really want a
cannabis-themed
tiny
resort.
home.
We got that. Tiny homes, tree houses, camping sites, glamping sites. It's incredible. I can't wait to show it.
You
I
might
got.
have your first tenant.
Hey, we're gonna work together on that, and I would love to have some people from your organization and veterans and all kind of things. We got the sky is the limit of this place. It's my ultimate mecca of ideas. It's something that I never thought would happen, and it's happening.
Yeah.
and it's going to be the most incredible place on earth, next to Kilimanjaro when you're climbing it up there. So can't wait to join that. And again, that's it. We're going to sign off from here. As always, peace, love, and cannabis. Come see us, folks. We love you. Thanks so much.